Yo, K-Kunnnn here. Today I got early access to our Gijinkified BFG sniper rifle Trigger. So without any further delays, let's start covering Trigger. Cause get it, she gets into cover because she's a sniper. Okay, so I think most of us get how she works because you can playtest her on the ANB trial event. So I'll just briefly cover her kit for peeps who refuses to read the in-game descriptions. We all know gacha players don't read, but there are things you might not know as well. Her basic attack is sick with her Glock's intense recoil, keeping her balance up while shooting her sniper and getting a nice view at the end. But you're not going to use this in non-Gunner gameplay scenarios. But her whole basic attack shifts up her assets and makes you play NIKKE Goddess of Victory in ZZZ. So get your "if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best" memes out of your system. Now if you release her whole basic attack, she will do a finisher that will activate a quick assist to the previous character on your team, ideally your main DPS. Now you see the bar under her, that's the Purge meter. Every time she hits an enemy in her sniper stance, she gets 25 Purge and she can gain a maximum of 100 Purge, which will activate her AfterShock attacks when you switch to another agent and starts shooting, purging a certain degen for staring at her tight jiggly assets, activating it with any attacks you do, and this consumes 3 Purge and has a cooldown of 3 seconds, practically almost a 100% uptime. And if you do an EX skill, ult, or a quick assist follow-up from another character that is not Trigger, you will do her harmonizing shots Tartar Toss, Persona 3 reference. This can be triggered 2 times within 20 seconds for the entire squad, so you can switch to another character and activate this with their EX skill basically. Now her EX skill does 3 slashes and ending it with a Bayonetta gun blast into the enemy's face. Man, I wish that was me. And showing a visual indicator in her Purge bar that this will do her AfterShock attacks without consuming Purge, removing the cooldown restrictions and turning her into a Chinese player you queued up against and giving you the classical 0 and 20 on your KDA. And the duration is pretty short if you skill once, but if you skill twice with her, it pretty much extends its duration. You can try it if you keep spamming it in the training room. Her dodge and parry does the standard stuff but doesn't apply or do any special effects, unless you consider looking at Trigger's cakes as a motivational buff to lock in, then sure. Her ult pretty much fires up a hyper beam and does the same thing as her EX skill, but an interesting note here is that you can stack her ult plus her EX skill twice and making her stay in the GIGA coordinated support state for a long time. Here's a comparison. Now her core skill, and thank you ZZZ devs for not making us read your thesis assignment, she basically gives a stun damage multiplier of 35% for 5 seconds with her AfterShock attacks, even if the enemy isn't stunned. I already have this buff whenever I look at her dump truck, so. Her additional ability activates when there's an attacker or an electric character in the team, which basically converts the crit rate that exceeds 40%. With every 1% of crit rate, she increases her days by 1.5%, with a maximum of 75%, which you can cap by getting, I kid you not, 90% crit rate. Oh 7. I can't even get like 80% on stats, bro. So if you're F2P, it's something you should strive for and get as close as possible, not sacrificing your other stats to achieve it. So here is my base stats for her, and we can go to her skills and equipments, disk drives, Wengines, and stuff like that. So here is my crit rate 74, crit damage around like 100, and impact 162. So I can get like 86 more crit rate via this AfterShock, which is her best in slot right now, and like a 2-piece like Shockstar Disco Wengine, which is like the impact set. But yeah, we'll get into that later. But yeah, here is basically my stats on her. So let's get into her skill, and you can see the ass jiggle, pretty nice. But anyways, let's not get distracted. So her upgrade priorities, which I can agree upon this, is her first is obviously her core passive, then her basic, because this harmonizing shot is considered basic attack, which is your AfterShock attacks as well. So that's your second priority to upgrade. The second one On the second slots here is her EX skill and ult. I'd say you can upgrade both of these at the same time and then upgrade her assist or slash parry. And then you don't really need to upgrade her dodge, or you don't really need to upgrade it at all. You can just put it at like 1 or something, since you don't really need to dodge with her most of the time. So you're pretty much good for this. These are the ones you want to usually upgrade, the top ones over here, your priority. Next is your EX skill, ult, and then your parry, and level this one up if you wanted to. Yeah, let's go into her disk drive options. Hell yeah, you can see her Glocks over here. Pretty nice, pretty nice. So obviously the first one, I'll just put like all of the main stats as like an overlay over here. So obviously the Shadow Harmony is a good set for her, and Shocker Distro. But if you can't like reach like the crit rate threshold, you can go like the Woodpecker Electro over here for that 8% crit rate, so you can get the maximum buff you can get from her additional ability, which is this one, since you want to cap it at like 90%, well, close to 90%. So yeah, again, here are my stats for her. Pretty decent, more crit damage on there, decent. Okay, well, this is pretty good, not gonna lie. This is kinda meh. Yeah, this one's horrendous. This one's yeah, this one's beyond saving, and this one I couldn't find anything better here. And obviously her Wengine is her best in slot, called the Spectral Gaze. So this Wengine is kinda nutty with this long ass text, but I want to emphasize on the first one. When the equipper hits an enemy with an aftershock causing electric damage, the target's def is reduced by 25% for 5 seconds. So that's basically the same uptime as her core passive. Insane. And passive effects of the same name do not stack. So if you have this Wengine on like another character on the same team, it won't stack up. So rip, you can't stack this defense red on the enemy, sadly. If the equipper is not the active character, they gain 1 stack of Spirit Lock, up to maximum of 3 stacks. This can trigger only once per use of skill. Each stack of Spirit Lock increases the equipper's impact by 4%, lasting 12 seconds, and it's calculated separately, the usual. And if you have like full stacks on that, you can get additional 8% impact on that, so more days build up on the enemy, and you can do a lot of damage with this one as well. So pretty nutty. But a second option if you have this is Lycon's Wengine, the Restrained. So you remember how her like aftershocks are considered basic attack damage? Well, this one pretty much does the same thing. Damage and days from basic attacks increased by 6% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So again, this is pretty good on her as well, since her aftershock attacks are considered basic attacks. So this one's pretty good as well. The Ice Jade Teapot, Chingy's Wengine, is pretty good as a stat stick. I don't think you can max out the passive on this, but it's still usable. You can use it as a stat stick for now. If you have it lying around and you don't have Chingyu for some reason, then sure. Steam Wengine is always my go-to F2P Wengine. This one's pretty nice, gives you energy regen, and you can accumulate a lot of energy and then increase your impact 8 times. You can use this on any stunner characters. You could probably use Kaleidos as well. This energy regen's pretty good. The EX skill, you usually don't really use her EX skill that much, but it lasts for like 10 seconds, which is, I think, is not really enough to capitalize on. But hey, I mean, if you have it, you can use it. It has impact stats on the advanced stats, so it's a good stat stick. The rest, this Precious Fossilized Core, I mean, if you're good enough to one-shot the enemies in like 1 stun rotation, then yeah, this one's pretty good as well. But again, for long fights, this one's pretty good. For short fights, this one's pretty good. Up to you, but I personally, Steam Oven is the way to go. And you can probably use Ambi as another stat stick, but you won't really utilize this like passive, since it uses like a dodge counter or assist attack, and I don't think you'll really do that with Trigger, since she's an off-field stunner agent. So Of course, the BP Wengine is a pretty decent one as well. You can use an EX skill from time to time, and it will increase the days build up on the enemies with this one. So I mean, why not? It's a good stat stick. Now, team options. So the first one is Sanbi, Trigger, and Polkra, which is like the AfterShocker team. These three are the only ones that uses AfterShock for now. How it works is basically it goes to the previous character. It kind of gets wonky, especially if you try going for like Polkra, and sometimes you'll lose her Hunter's Gate when you switch back into her, which you don't want. Sometimes you want to go with Ambi, but then you accidentally go to Polkra and you will lose your Hunter's Gate with this. So it's good, but you just have to like manually like manage these three when you're switching between them. But overall, it's pretty good. Next one is the F2P starter team, which is Trigger, Nicole, Billy. This one is pretty decent as well. Compared to like these other teams over here, it's the slowest one since a little less smooth experience with this, but it can clear the boss with this one. So if you don't have anyone yet and you're still starting out fresh, this team is pretty goated. You can probably replace like Billy with like something like, I don't know, like Elenjo or Shuyan in the future or something to like maximize this team a little bit, but it is what it is. It's for the people out there who just started out with ZZZ. Next one is the Joe Mama team. So this one is pretty smooth, not gonna lie, especially with like Sokaku going in the front and just activating her like E skill and then switching into Ellen to get the buffs, and then immediately going to Trigger so that she can apply her Purge stacks on her and then switch back to Ellen and start DPSing with Ellen Show, since at that time you probably have already like enough energy to do an EX skill so that you can activate Trigger's coordinated attacks. This one's pretty simple and pretty easy, no brainer. This one's pretty good as well with like a clear time of like 1 minute and like 39 seconds, so basically one anime opening. It's pretty good, shockingly good, and I quite like this one, which is like a double stunner team comp. It is the Trigger, Harumasa, or you could probably replace Harumasa with Jujuan over here, and Qingyi. So this team is pretty good. We have like Qingyi, you have to activate like Trigger's like core passive and stuff like that first, her Purge stuff, and then switch into Qingyi, which will be triggered by Trigger over here with her as quick assist, and then you can start stunning the enemy with Qingyi, and it will be like you'll stun the enemies really quickly with this team. And plus you get like an additional damage multiplier from Qingyi and Trigger, which is like huge damage amplification from both of them, which will Harumasa will capitalize on, or Julian will capitalize on. So pretty good team. This team's really quick with like 1 minute and 24 seconds as an average time with this, with 3 runs doing it. So this team is pretty decent and pretty good in my opinion. So if you have Qingyi, though the only problem here is that it is a 3S ranked team, so you have to get these 3 in order to do this team, but it is what it is. Next one is the Superconduct team. Similar with this team, I feel like this one, the Shockingly Good team and the Superconduct team, is pretty similar, though with a little slower pace because Lycon doesn't have like the fast like stun multipliers as Qingyi, but you only get like a slightly lower damage stun multiplier on this team, but it's still pretty good with like 1 minute and 24 clear time as an average, which is kind of similar to Shockingly Good team. So again, these two teams are pretty comparable. Next one is probably one of her best option team. Here is the Ongabunga team damage over here, which my clear time was like literally just like 1 minute and 3 seconds, which is like the average. My best time is for this one is like 59 seconds, so this one's pretty unga bunga. You basically go to Astra to E and then switch to Ambi and then switch again to Trigger so that you can get her Purge bar up and then switch back to Ambi and start DPSing, which is like pretty much unga bunga team. And then you'll have to like quick assist with someone in the middle of the road just to keep Astra Yao's buff up all the time. I mean, this one's unga bunga. I feel like there's nothing really to explain here. This team is really quick in clearing the stuff here. Next one is the Bodyguard team. So if you don't have Astra Yao, you can probably place like Lucy over here, which in my opinion does have a similar clear time, which is like 1 minute and 29 seconds depending on how much you're good at the game and dodge the enemy, which I'm just simulating what a casual player would do. Surely, man. But yeah, this team pretty much similar to the Ungabunga team. Just go to Astra and then start building up like Evelyn's stacks, and then go to like Trigger just to build up her Purge stacks, and then you can start Ungambuing, doing damage with Evelyn and doing damage with Trigger as well. Going back to Astra and quick swapping between these three just to activate Aster Yao's buff over and over and keeping that uptime up. Yeah. Now then, let's move on to her Mindscapes, which in summary is good for her supportability. So the first one is the stun damage multiplier applied through core passive is increased by an additional 20%, so you're getting like 55. And when you're in the sniper stance, you gain 25% more charges, and the maximum purge charge you can get is 125 now. So pretty good Mindscape 1 for her supportability and damage amplification. Now Mindscape 2, upon using AfterShock, Trigger gains 1 stack of Hunter's Gaze. When executing a finishing move in the sniper stance, which is her final hit, Trigger gains 2 stacks of Hunter's Gaze. Each stack of Hunter's Gaze increases all squad members' crit damage by 6%, stacking up to 4 times and lasting for 10 seconds. And repeated trigger resets the duration. So basically you're getting 24% crit damage for free. M4, when you extend her coordinated support attacks, basically her like AfterShock attacks, it will trigger disconnect upon hitting an enemy, dealing additional damage equal to 2% 200% of Trigger's attack and inflict daze equal to 120% of Trigger's impact. And this skill has relatively high interrupt level, so I'm guessing this can like interrupt like boss when they're charging their attacks or something, like for example Pompey's explosion. M6, upon entering the battlefield, Trigger gains 5 armor break rounds. For every 25 purge consumed, Trigger gains 1 additional armor break round up to a maximum of 5 rounds. While possessing armor break rounds, when Trigger hits a target in sniper stance, 1 armor break round is consumed to deal additional electric damage equal to 1200% of Trigger's attack, and armor break round damage is additionally increased by 50%. This effect can be triggered once every 0.2 seconds, so you're not shooting sniper rounds anymore, you're basically turning into a fucking bazooka. Now her pull value is pretty high in my opinion. Having an off-field stunner that provides a good damage multiplier while stunning them in the process while doing damage to them is basically shooting 3 birds with 1 trigger. Personally, I want her, but Vivian, man, Vivian is the next patch, so I'll get her in the rerun. But if you have pulls and you have like Sanbi in your account, the duel will pretty much clear anything. Obviously, you'll have to dodge with Sanbi, but that's pretty much a no-brainer already. So here's my pros and cons for her. Pros: off-field stunner, obviously, off-field damage, 100% uptime on the stun damage multiplier, easy 3-second setup, and forget about her existence type gameplay, and then come back to her whenever you want to EX skill, obviously, or ult. Universal stunner for attackers and electric agents in the future, benefits future AfterShock units probably, hot blind blonde tight yoga pants sniper lady, and the best date planner in New Eridu. And her cons. So these cons aren't really a con, it's more like a situational type things, like maybe you don't have like the right amount of like polychromes together, or like her banner positions like kinda iffy. So her Wengine's kinda nutty, not needed, but the def shred is freaking insane. Potential banner position, again, like the next patch will get Vivian and Hugo, and then like the first banner right now in the patch is Sanbi, which you kind of want like Trigger as well to make her damage kinda nutty as well, so that's like the classic strat from Hoyoverse. Yeah, her Mindscape for supporting is freaking nutty, especially like M1 and M2, bruh. Damage might be lackluster at M0, but you're using her for damage amplifications. But yeah, that pretty much covers everything about Trigger. Leave down in the comments below if I missed anything, and what are your thoughts and opinions about our hot sniper lady Trigger. But yeah, anyways, subscribe so I can stay in the basement, like for the algorithm, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Bye.